override her name on the USB. So who actually submitted that file?
You cheated. We have proof. That's how it started. No warning. No build-up. Just those 5 words cutting straight through the classroom like a blade. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Mr. Callahan didn't even raise his voice. He didn't have to. The way he said it flat, certain was worse than yelling. It made everyone believe him instantly. Chairs stopped moving. Pens froze mid-sentence. 20 pairs of eyes snapped toward me at the exact same time. And me? I didn't move. Not right away. Because here's the part no one in that room knew. This wasn't a surprise. I already knew this was coming. Mr. Callahan stood at the front of the room, one hand gripping a stack of papers so tightly the edges bent under his fingers. His eyes locked onto mine like he'd been waiting for this moment all day. "Aria Bennett," he said again, slower this time. "Stand up." A whisper rippled across the room. My name always carried weight, top grades, perfect record. The girl teachers pointed out when they said, "This is what effort looks like." Yeah, that girl. So when I pushed my chair back and stood up, you could feel the shift. Confusion, curiosity, a little excitement. People love watching someone fall. I glanced sideways for half a second. Maya, 17, my best friend since middle school. The one person who should have looked confused or defensive or anything. But she didn't. She looked down. And that was the first real confirmation. Not the accusation. Not the teacher. Her. Mr. Callahan stepped closer, placing a paper on the nearest desk like it was evidence in a courtroom. "You cheated on the exam," he said, "and we have proof." There it was again. Proof? He kept saying that word like repeating it would make it heavier. More real. I could have argued. I could have laughed. I could have said, "That's impossible." Because it was. But instead, I did something that made everything worse. I just nodded. Okay. That was it. One word. And the entire room shifted again, but this time, it wasn't curiosity. It was shock. Because that's not what innocent people say. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone lean toward another student and whisper, "She's admitting it." Another voice quieter, "No way." Mr. Callahan froze. Actually froze. His expression flickered just for a split second, but I caught it. The confusion, the hesitation. Like I just said, the one thing he wasn't prepared for. His eyes narrowed slightly, studying me now. Recalculating. "Go to the principal's office," he said, sharper this time, immediately. Right there. That was the moment everything locked into place. Because the speed of it, the certainty, the way he didn't ask questions, didn't investigate, this had already been decided. Before I ever walked into that classroom, I picked up my bag slowly. No rush, no panic, just steady movement. And as I stepped into the aisle, the whispers followed me. "She's done." I knew something was off. Guess she's not so perfect after all. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. Because the truth was already sitting there, buried under their assumptions. And I was about to prove it. But not yet. Not here. I walked out into the hallway, the door clicking shut behind me, and the silence out there felt different, heavier, like the school itself was holding its breath. Then, my phone buzzed. I stopped, slowly pulled it out. Unknown number. One message. "Don't go to the office alone." I stared at the screen. And for the first time that day, something actually caught me off guard. "Don't go to the office alone." I read it twice. Then a third time. Same words. Same cold feeling settling in my chest. This wasn't part of the plan. And yeah, I had a plan. Not a perfect one. Not something I'd mapped out step by step like a movie mastermind. But enough pieces, enough signs that I knew this accusation wasn't random. But this message, this was new. I lifted my head slowly, scanning the hallway. Empty. Lockers lined both sides, like silent witnesses. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere far off, a door slammed. Normal school sounds. Nothing unusual. But now everything felt staged. Like I'd just stepped into something bigger than I thought. Don't go alone. That implies one thing, right? Danger. Or at least, risk. I tightened my grip on my phone. Who sent this? And more importantly, how did they know? Because the timing wasn't coincidence. The message came seconds after I left the classroom. Whoever sent it knew exactly where I was and where I was going. I started walking again, but slower now. Thinking. Replaying everything. This morning, 7:12 a.m., that first email, the subject line still burned in my mind. You're being set up. At the time, I thought it was some kind of prank, maybe a spam message. The screenshot attached didn't make sense, answers to a test I hadn't even taken yet. But then I got to school, and things started lining up in ways they shouldn't. Mr. Callahan, acting off. The tests already printed too early. Maya avoiding me, and now this. Another message. Another warning. Different source, same implication. I stopped again, halfway down the hall. Let me ask you something. If someone warns you twice from two different directions, at what point do you stop ignoring it? At what point do you realize this is real? My thumb hovered over the screen. I could reply. Who is this? What do you mean? But something told me I wouldn't get an answer. People who send messages like this, they don't want conversations. They want outcomes. I locked my phone and slipped it into my pocket. Think Arya. If I don't go alone, then what? Bring a teacher? That makes it worse. Grab a friend? Not Maya. Not anymore. Not after that look. That one moment where she couldn't meet my eyes. That wasn't guilt you could fake. That was fear. And suddenly, a memory hit me fast, sharp. Yesterday afternoon. Library. Maya sitting across from me, tapping her pen against the table. Do you ever feel like she started, then stopped? Like what? I asked. She shook her head. Nothing. Forget it. At the time, I let it go. Now? Yeah. Not so easy to ignore. I exhaled slowly. No backup. No clear ally. Just warnings and a situation that was already moving without me. So I made a decision. Not a safe one. Not a smart one, maybe. But the only one that made sense. I kept walking toward the principal's office. Because if this was a trap, then I needed to see how deep it went. The hallway turned, leading to the administrative wing. The air always felt colder here, quieter, like even the noise knew it didn't belong. And as I got closer, I noticed something else. The door to the principal's office, it was already slightly open. Like they were expecting me, like they knew exactly when I'd arrive. My steps slowed, heart steady but sharper now, focused. This wasn't just an accusation. This was coordinated, planned, and whatever was waiting behind that door, it wasn't going to be simple. I reached out, pushed it open, and the moment I stepped inside, I realized something immediately. I wasn't the first one there. The accusation didn't start in that classroom. It started at 7:12 a.m. And if I had taken it seriously right then, maybe everything that followed would have felt different. Or maybe not. Because looking back, this whole thing was already in motion long before I even woke up. My alarm went off at 7. Same as always. Same routine. Same ceiling. Same half-asleep reach for my phone. Nothing unusual. Until I saw the notification. One new email, unknown sender. That alone wasn't weird. Spam happens. School announcements. Random junk. Whatever. But the subject line? That's what made me stop. You're being set up. I remember staring at it for a second too long. Like my brain didn't fully process it at first. Set up? By who? For what? Still half asleep, I tapped it open. And that's when things stopped making sense. There was no message body, no explanation, no name, just an attachment, a screenshot. At first glance, it looked like notes, math notes. But not just any notes. They were formatted exactly like Mr. Callahan's tests. Same structure, same question style, same numbering. My stomach dropped a little because I recognized them. Not from memory, but from familiarity. These were questions we hadn't done yet, but they looked like the kind he always used. Then my eyes moved to the answers. Each question already filled in. Clean, precise, correct. And then I saw it. Top corner, a timestamp, 6:48 a.m. I frowned. That didn't make sense. I hadn't even left my bed at 6:48, hadn't opened my laptop, hadn't accessed anything. So why did this look like my work? I zoomed in, and yeah, there it was. My formatting style, the way I spaced equations, even the little habit I had of underlining final answers twice. It looked like something I would have written, except I didn't. That was the moment I should have panicked. But I didn't. I just sat there, staring at the screen, trying to force logic into something that clearly didn't have any. Okay, I muttered to myself, this is weird, but it's probably nothing. Yeah, probably nothing. Ever told yourself that? Right before everything goes wrong? I got ready like normal. Brushed it off. Went through the motions. But something stuck with me. That screenshot. That timestamp. And the wording. You're being set up. Not watch out. Not be careful. Set up. That implies intent. Planning. Someone doing something on purpose. And even though I didn't fully believe it yet, I didn't delete the email. I didn't ignore it completely. I kept it, just in case. By the time I got to school, things still felt normal. Students talking, lockers slamming, someone laughing too loudly down the hall. The usual chaos. But then I saw Mr. Callahan, standing near the classroom door, and something about him was off. It was subtle. If you didn't know him, you'd miss it. But I did. He's the kind of teacher who's always controlled, precise, predictable. Today, his posture was tighter, jaw slightly clenched, eyes scanning the hallway like he was looking for someone, or waiting. And the second his gaze landed on me, he looked away, too quickly, like he didn't want to be caught looking. That was the first real crack. The first moment where that email stopped feeling like a joke. I walked into class, took my seat, and that's when I noticed the second thing. The tests, stacked on his desk, already printed, already organized. Too early, way too early. Mr. Callahan never printed tests until right before class started. He was obsessive about security, always said it prevented leaks. But now, they were just sitting there, uncovered, unprotected, like it didn't matter anymore, or like the damage had already been done. I glanced across the room. Maya was already there. Usually, she'd wave, smile, mouth, something sarcastic. Today, nothing. She was staring down at her desk, tapping her pen, fast, nervous, avoiding me completely. And that's when the third piece clicked into place. The email, the teacher, the tests. And now, something wasn't right. Not even close. And for the first time that morning, I stopped thinking, this is weird, and started thinking, this is happening. Mr. Callahan cleared his throat at the front of the room. Phones away, bags under your desks, he said. We're starting immediately. No warm-up, no instructions, just straight into it. Rushed. Controlled. Like he didn't want anyone thinking too long. I reached for my bag, then paused. Because something hit me all at once. A question I hadn't asked yet. One that changed everything. If someone really is setting me up, why? I slid my phone into my bag slowly, eyes drifting back to the stack of tests, then to Mr. Callahan, then to Maya. Still not looking at me, still tapping that pen, faster now. And in that moment, a thought crossed my mind that I didn't want to believe, didn't want to even consider. But once it was there, I couldn't ignore it. What if this wasn't just about me? Mr. Callahan started handing out the exams, row by row, getting closer, closer, until he stopped right beside my desk. And for a split second, he leaned down slightly and said, just loud enough for me to hear, "We'll talk after this." Something cold settled in my chest. Because now I knew this wasn't a possibility anymore. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was already decided, already planned, and I had just walked straight into it. "We'll talk after this." Those 5 words didn't sound like a warning. They sounded like a conclusion. Like whatever decision had been made didn't need my input anymore. I looked down at the test as it landed on my desk. Face down, clean, untouched. But somehow already involved in something bigger than it should have been. "Begin," Mr. Callahan said. Papers flipped across the room in near perfect sync. I turned mine over. And the second I saw the first question, my stomach dropped. Not because it was hard, not because it was confusing, but because I had seen it before, exactly as it was printed. Same numbers, same wording, same structure. My eyes moved quickly down the page. Question 2, 3, 4, all of them. Every single one. It matched the screenshot from that email. Perfectly. Line for line. Answer for answer. I leaned back slightly in my chair, my fingers still resting on the edge of the paper. And for a second, everything around me faded. The scratching of pencils, the shifting of chairs, the quiet cough from the back of the room. None of it mattered, because now there was no more doubt. Someone had access to this test before today. And not just access, they sent it to me. Or at least something that looked like it came from me. I swallowed slowly. Think, if I answer everything correctly, it matches the screenshot. If I change my answers, I risk getting things wrong on purpose. Either way, I lose. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about catching me cheating. This was about making sure I couldn't prove I didn't. A perfect setup doesn't just accuse you. It removes your way out. I exhaled quietly and picked up my pencil. Fine. If they wanted a performance, I'd give them one, but not the one they expected. I started working through the test. Slowly. Deliberately. Not copying what I saw in my memory of the screenshot. Not rushing. I solved each problem step by step, like I always did. Showing my work. Double-checking answers. Letting the process speak for itself. Because here's the thing. If someone was trying to frame me using my own perfect answers, then the only way to fight that was to be even more precise than they planned for. To create a difference they couldn't explain away. Halfway through, I felt it. That feeling you get when someone's watching you. I looked up, Mr. Callahan, standing near the front, not moving, not helping anyone, just observing. And when our eyes met, he didn't look away this time. He held it, studied me, like he was waiting for something. A mistake, a reaction, anything. But I gave him nothing. Just looked back for a second, then returned to my paper. Calm, controlled, exactly how I needed to be. A few seats over, Maya shifted in her chair. I glanced at her again. And this time, she looked up, our eyes met. Finally. And there it was. No more guessing. No more uncertainty. Guilt. Clear. Unmistakable. Heavy. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to say something. But she didn't. She just looked away again. And that silence, that told me everything. Time blurred after that. Question after question. Step after step. Until finally, 5 minutes, Mr. Callahan announced. I was already done. I reviewed my answers one last time. Carefully, making sure everything was solid. Consistent. Mine. Not whatever version of me someone else had tried to create. Then I stood up, before anyone else, walked to the front, and placed the test on his desk. He looked down at it, then back up at me. Expression unreadable, but his fingers tightened slightly against the edge of the paper. Just like before, control slipping just a little. Finished early? He asked quietly. Yeah, I said. Nothing more. No explanation. No defense. I turned and walked back to my seat. And for the rest of the test period, I didn't touch my pencil again. The bell rang. Chairs scraped. Voices came back to life. But the tension didn't leave. It followed me, sat with me, waited. Because everyone knew something was coming. They just didn't know what. Arya. His voice cut through the noise. Sharp, final, stay after class. Students slowed as they packed up. Watching, listening, waiting. Maya hesitated near her desk, like she wanted to stay or say something. But in the end, she left, just like everyone else. The door closed, and suddenly it was just the two of us. Mr. Callahan walked over slowly, picked up my test, flipped through it once, twice, then set it down, and said the words that started everything. We need to talk about academic integrity. We need to talk about academic integrity. That's how he said it. Calm, measured, almost rehearsed. Like this wasn't a conversation. It was a script. I stayed where I was for a second, then slowly stood up and walked toward the front of the room. Each step felt louder now that everything else was quiet. Empty classroom. Closed door. No witnesses. Exactly how he wanted it. Mr. Callahan rested both hands on the desk, my test paper sitting neatly between them. He didn't look angry. That would have been easier to deal with. No. He looked certain. Like everything had already been decided, signed, sealed, and filed away. Do you know why I asked you to stay? He asked. I could have played dumb. Could have said no. But what was the point? Because you think I cheated, I said. A slight pause. Then a nod. I don't think, he corrected. I know. There it was again. That word. No. Like he'd already convinced himself beyond doubt. Or worse. Like he needed me to believe that he had. He slid the paper slightly forward. Your answers match a version of this test that was accessed before the exam, he continued, from your account. I didn't respond right away. I just looked at the paper, then back at him. Let that sentence sit in the air for a moment. Because on the surface, it sounded airtight, clean, convincing, but underneath, it didn't hold. Not completely. From my account, I repeated. Yes. And when was this accessed? His jaw tightened just a fraction. Late last night. There it was. A detail. A timestamp. A piece of the story I could work with. I tilted my head slightly. Interesting, I said. That word caught him off guard. I could see it. Because again, not the reaction he expected. Most students would panic here. Deny everything. Get emotional. But I didn't. And that was starting to bother him. You don't seem concerned, he said. I am, I replied. Just not for the reason you think. Silence. A shift. Tiny but real. He straightened slightly, crossing his arms now. Arya, this is serious. This could lead to suspension, expulsion even. There it was. The pressure. The escalation. He wanted a reaction. Fear. Desperation. Anything he could point to as guilt. But instead, I asked a question. Did you check where the login came from? That did it. For the first time since this started, he hesitated. Only for a second, but it was enough. We have the necessary information, he said, a little more sharply now. That's not what I asked. And we both knew it. Let me ask you something. If someone has real proof, why avoid simple questions? I nodded slowly, like I was accepting what he said. Like I believed him. Then I glanced at the door, then back at him. And the principal already knows? I asked. Yes, he said immediately. She's expecting you. Of course she was. Because this wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't a teacher discovering something and reacting. This was coordinated. Planned ahead of time. Which meant whatever evidence they had, it was prepared before I even walked into that room. I picked up my bag. No sudden movements. No argument. Just calm. Okay, I said. Again. That same word. And again. He didn't like it. I could see it in his eyes. That flicker of uncertainty. Because calm doesn't match guilt. It matches something else. something harder to control. As I reached the door, my hand resting on the handle, I paused. Just for a second, then I turned slightly and said, "You should double-check the timeline." He didn't respond, didn't move, but I saw it, that tension again. That crack getting just a little wider. I opened the door, stepped out into the hallway, and this time, there was no class watching. No whispers. No audience. Just me. And whatever was waiting next, my phone buzzed again. I didn't even need to look to know what it was. Another message. Another piece. Another push deeper into this. I pulled it out. Unknown number. Same as before. One line. Check the school network logs before you go in. I stopped walking. Right there in the hallway. Because now things were changing. Fast. This wasn't just a warning anymore. This was direction. Specific. Targeted. And that meant one thing. Whoever was sending these messages, they knew exactly what was happening behind the scenes. I slowly lifted my head, eyes shifting toward the computer lab down the hall, then toward the administrative office in the opposite direction. Two paths. One leads straight into their setup. The other, into answers they don't expect me to find. So the real question is, do I walk into the trap? Or do I break the script? I turned. I turned away from the principal's office. Not fast, not dramatic, just deliberate, like it was the most normal decision in the world. But it wasn't, because in that moment, I was doing exactly what they didn't expect, breaking the sequence. And if this whole thing really was planned, then even a small disruption could matter. The computer lab was quiet, empty. Most classes were still in session, which meant I had a small window before anyone noticed I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I stepped inside, letting the door close softly behind me. Rows of monitors, low hum of machines, that faint recycled air smell every school lab has. Familiar. Controlled. And right now, exactly what I needed. I moved to one of the back computers and logged in quickly. Hands steady. Mind sharp. Because here's the thing. I wasn't guessing anymore. I had pieces. Email, screenshot, timestamp, teacher behavior, Maya, and now network logs. If someone accessed my account last night, there had to be a record. Time, location, device. Digital footprints don't just disappear, not unless someone really knows what they're doing. And something told me, whoever set this up, they weren't as careful as they thought. I pulled up the system dashboard. Most students wouldn't even know this existed. But I'd spent enough time helping the IT club last semester to know where to look. Login history. Filtered by account. Mine. There it was. A list of timestamps. Normal activity. Homework logins. Assignments. Nothing unusual. Until 11:43 p.m. I leaned closer to the screen. That entry didn't belong, because I knew exactly where I was at 11:43 last night. In my room, phone dead. Laptop closed. Asleep. No question. I clicked into the details. Location, internal network. Device ID, school terminal. My pulse slowed, not sped up. Slowed, because this was confirmation. Not suspicion anymore. Not theory. Proof. Someone accessed my account from inside the school. I sat back slightly, let that settle, then followed the next step. Printer logs. Just like the message said, a few clicks later, I found it. Activity tied to Mr. Callahan's account. Timestamps lining up almost perfectly with that login. Multiple print jobs. Same document name, format. Repeated. Over and over. More copies than a single class would ever need. I stared at the screen, and the picture finally started coming together. Not fully. Not yet. But enough to see the outline. This wasn't just about framing me. There was something else. Something bigger. Because you don't print extra copies of a test? Unless those copies are going somewhere. A noise snapped me out of it. Footsteps. Out in the hallway. Getting closer. I quickly minimized the windows, my heart kicking just a little faster now. Time was running out. I didn't have everything yet, but I had enough. Enough to push back. Enough to make them hesitate. I grabbed my phone and took a quick picture of the screen. Just in case. Because evidence only matters if you can prove it later. The footsteps passed. Didn't stop. I exhaled quietly, then stood up. Decision made. I wasn't walking into that office blind anymore. I wasn't the student they thought they were about to corner. As I stepped out of the lab and turned toward the principal's office again, something felt different. Not safer. Not easier. But clearer. Like the fog had lifted just enough to see the direction this was going. This wasn't just a setup. It was a system. And I had just found the first crack in it. I reached the office door again. Same as before. Slightly open. Waiting. But this time, so was I. I pushed the door open. And the second I stepped inside, I realized something new. Something that changed the entire situation again. Mr. Callahan wasn't the only one sitting there. I wasn't walking into a meeting. I was walking into a decision that had already been made. The office felt colder than the hallway. Not physically, but in that quiet, controlled way where every movement suddenly matters more than it should. Principal Harris sat behind her desk. 52. Calm, composed. The kind of presence that usually made people feel safe. Today, it felt different. Because to her right, sat Mr. Callahan. Already there. Already settled. Like he'd been waiting. "Aria," Principal Harris said, folding her hands neatly, "please, have a seat." Her tone was polite, professional, but there was something underneath it. Distance. Like she'd already created space between herself and me. I stepped forward and sat down across from them. Bag resting at my feet, phone in my pocket, evidence still fresh in my mind. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly known you're outnumbered? Yeah, that. Mr. Callahan didn't look at me this time. Not directly. He was focused on a folder in front of him. Thick, organized, prepared. Principal Harris opened it. Slowly, carefully, like every movement had been practiced. "We've reviewed information regarding your exam this morning," she began. There it was. Formal language, structured delivery. This wasn't a conversation. It was a presentation. She slid a paper across the desk toward me. I glanced down and immediately recognized it. The screenshot, the same one from the email, same answers, same formatting, same timestamp. "This document," she continued, "was accessed using your school account before the test took place." She paused, watching me, waiting. For what? Shock? Denial? A breakdown? I looked up, met her eyes, then shifted slightly toward Mr. Callahan. Still not looking at me. Interesting. "And you're sure that was my account?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "The login credentials match." Credentials. Not location. Not device. Just credentials. I nodded slowly, processing, letting them continue. Because right now, talking wasn't the move. Listening was. Mr. Callahan finally spoke. "You've always been a strong student, Aria," he said, "which makes this disappointing." Disappointing. Not confusing. Not unexpected. Disappointing. Like he'd already decided what I'd done, and how he felt about it. I tilted my head slightly, studying him now, because something didn't add up. If this was solid, if this was airtight, why avoid eye contact earlier? Why rush the process? Why prepare everything in advance? Principal Harris turned another page in the folder. "We also compared your submitted test to this document," she said. "The answers aligned significantly." Of course they did. That was the point. "We take academic integrity very seriously," she continued. "At this stage, we are considering disciplinary action, which may include suspension pending further review." There it was. The consequence. Laid out clean, controlled. Final. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Waiting. I leaned back slightly in my chair, exhaled, then asked, when exactly was this file accessed? A pause. Brief, but noticeable. Mr. Callahan answered this time, late last night. Same as before. Consistent. Rehearsed. Do you have the exact time? I asked. Principal Harris glanced at him, then back at me. 11:43 p.m. There it was. Confirmed. I nodded. Once, slow, then leaned forward slightly, resting my hands on the desk. Okay, I said. And for the first time since I walked in, their attention sharpened. Because something in my tone changed. Not defensive. Not emotional. Just certain. Then before we go any further, I continued, you might want to check where that login actually came from. Silence. Immediate. Sharp. Mr. Callahan's head turned toward me. Quick. Too quick. What do you mean? Principal Harris asked. I held her gaze. Didn't rush. Didn't over-explain. I mean, I said that login didn't come from me. A shift in the room. Subtle, but real. Mr. Callahan straightened in his chair. That's not possible, he said. Too fast. Too firm. And that was the mistake. I tilted my head slightly. Are you sure? I asked. Because now, this wasn't just their accusation anymore. It was my turn. Are you sure? I didn't raise my voice. Didn't push. But the question landed exactly where it needed to. Right in the gap they hadn't accounted for. Mr. Callahan leaned forward slightly, his expression tightening. The system logs are very clear, he said. Your account accessed that material. That's not up for debate. Not up for debate. That's what people say when they don't want something questioned. I nodded once. Right, I said calmly. My account did. A pause. Then, but accounts don't have locations. Devices do. Silence. Again. But this time, heavier. Because now we weren't talking about if something happened. We were talking about how Principal Harris shifted slightly in her chair. Her posture changed not dramatically, but enough to notice. What are you suggesting, Arya? She asked. I reached into my pocket, slowly, carefully, and pulled out my phone, set it on the desk, screen facing them. I'm not suggesting anything, I said. I'm just asking you to look at all the data. I tapped the screen, brought up the photo I'd taken in the lab. Login history. Timestamp. Device source. Clear as it gets. Principal Harris leaned forward first. Her eyes scanned the screen, then narrowed. Just slightly. This shows she started, then stopped. Because she saw it. Of course she did. Internal network I finished for her. School terminal. Mr. Callahan didn't move. Didn't lean in. Didn't even glance at the phone. And that told me everything. Where did you get that? He asked. Not what is that? Not is this accurate. Just, where did you get it? I looked at him, held it. From the system, I said, the same one you're using. Principal Harris straightened slowly, her attention shifting now. Not fully away from me, but no longer locked onto me either. Mr. Callahan, she said, measured. Were device locations included in your report? A beat. Too long. They weren't necessary, he said. There it was. Another crack. Actually, I said, keeping my voice steady, they are. I tapped the screen again. Zoomed slightly. Because if the login happened inside the school at 11:43 p.m., I let that hang for a second. Then finished. Then someone was here. The room changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but the certainty, it shifted. Principal Harris turned fully toward Mr. Callahan now. Who has access to the building at that time? She asked. Staff, he said quickly. Too quickly. And students? She asked. No, he replied. Another silence. But this one? Different. Because now the question wasn't, did Arya cheat? It was, who used her account? I leaned back slightly in my chair, Let them sit with it. Let the logic settle in. Because once it did, there was no going back. And there's something else, I added. Both of them looked at me now. The test, I said. It was printed multiple times last night. I watched Mr. Callahan carefully as I spoke. Didn't miss the way his jaw tightened. Printer logs show it, I continued. Under your account, Principal Harris turned to him again. Slower this time. More deliberate. Is that true? She asked. He didn't answer right away. And that was louder than anything he could have said. Because now, the story wasn't holding. Not cleanly, not completely. And I could feel it. That shift, that moment where control starts slipping. From one side to the other, but I wasn't done. Not even close. Because there was still one piece missing. One question that hadn't been answered yet. One person who hadn't spoken. And until that happened, this wasn't over. I looked toward the door, then back at them, and said, maybe we should ask someone else. Principal Harris frowned slightly. Who? She asked. I held her gaze, then said the name that had been sitting there since the beginning. Maya. And the second I said it, Mr. Callahan finally looked at me. Directly. Not calm. Not controlled. For the first time since this started. Worried. Maya. The name didn't just land. It shifted everything. Principal Harris turned slightly, processing it. Maya, your friend? I nodded. Yeah, I said. I think she should be here. There was a pause. A long one. The kind where decisions get made without being spoken out loud. Then Principal Harris reached for the phone on her desk. Have Maya Thompson come to the office? She said calmly. The wait was quiet. Too quiet. No one spoke. No one moved much. But the tension? It built. Slow. Heavy. Because now, this wasn't just about data anymore. This was about people. A soft knock on the door. Come in, Principal Harris said. The door opened. And there she was. Maya. She stepped in slowly, eyes flicking between me, Mr. Callahan, and then the principal. Confusion. Nervousness. And underneath it, fear. You wanted to see me? She asked. Principal Harris gestured to the chair beside me. Sit down, please. Maya hesitated, then sat. Close enough that I could feel the tension in her posture, but not close enough to feel like we were on the same side anymore. Principal Harris folded her hands. Maya, we're discussing an academic integrity issue involving Arya. Maya nodded quickly. Too quickly. I heard, she said. People are talking about it. Good, Principal Harris replied evenly. Then I'll be direct. We have reason to believe you may have information relevant to this situation. Maya froze. Just for a second, but it was enough. I turned my head slightly toward her. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Because now, it was her move. Maya, I said quietly, did you use my laptop yesterday? Her breath caught. Barely noticeable, but I felt it. Yeah, she said, just for a minute, to check something. What did you check? I asked. She hesitated. Looked at Mr. Callahan. That was the mistake. Because Principal Harris saw it too. Maya, she said, sharper now, answer the question. Maya swallowed. Her hands clenched slightly in her lap. And when she spoke again, her voice wasn't steady anymore. I logged into the school system, she admitted. Silence. Immediate. Heavy. Using Arya's account? Principal Harris asked. Maya nodded. Slow. Reluctant. Why? I asked. That question broke something. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But enough. I didn't think it would turn into this, she said, her voice cracking slightly. I needed the answers. There it was. Out in the open. Principal Harris leaned forward. What answers? She asked. Maya's eyes flicked to Mr. Callahan again. And this time, he didn't look away fast enough. The test, she said quietly. The room shifted again. But this time, there was no going back. How did you get access to the test? Principal Harris asked. Maya hesitated. Then he gave it to me. Silence. Total. Principal Harris turned slowly toward Mr. Callahan. Is that true? He didn't answer. Didn't deny it. Didn't explain. And that silence, that confirmed everything. The pieces snapped together. Clean. Complete. Mr. Callahan had access to the test. Printed it early. Distributed it. Quietly. Selectively. Students who paid. Students who needed grades. Students like Maya. And me? I wasn't supposed to be part of that system. I was a problem. Because I didn't need help. I didn't rely on him. And if scores didn't line up, if patterns started to show, the whole thing could fall apart. So he built a solution. A scapegoat. Use my account. Make it look like I accessed the test. Send the answers. Ensure my real test matched closely enough. Then expose it. Publicly, clean, convincing. Except he missed something. Me. Principal Harris stood up slowly. Her expression no longer neutral. No longer distant. Mr. Callahan, she said, her voice firm, I'm going to need you to step out of this office. He didn't move at first. Then, finally, he stood, slow, controlled. But the certainty from before, gone. He walked out without a word. The door closed behind him. And just like that, the entire situation flipped. Maya started crying quietly beside me. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't think he said it was safe. I didn't know he was going to. I didn't respond right away. Because honestly, there wasn't a quick response to that. It's fine, I said finally. Not forgiveness. Not anger. Just distance. Principal Harris exhaled slowly. Then looked at me. Arya, she said, I owe you an apology. I nodded slightly. Didn't say anything. Because the truth was, an apology didn't erase what almost happened. Aftermath. Everything moved fast after that. Faster than I expected. Mr. Callahan was suspended that same day. By the end of the week, terminated. An official investigation followed. Not just internal, external. Because selling academic material, that doesn't stay inside school walls. Maya was suspended. Academic record flagged. Not expelled. But close. The school sent out a formal statement. Didn't name me directly. But everyone knew. And suddenly, the whispers changed. From, she cheated, to, she exposed him. People who avoided me before, now they nodded in the hallway. Some apologized. Some didn't. But things weren't the same. Not really. Because being right doesn't always feel like winning. Emotional payoff. A few days later, Maya tried to talk to me. Caught me after school. Same spot we used to wait together. I never meant for it to go that far, she said. I believed her. That wasn't the problem. You still did it, I replied. She nodded. Tears again. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. Good, I said. Not harsh. Just honest, because trust doesn't come back that easily. Final resolution. Weeks passed. Things settled. My record was cleared completely. Officially. In writing, my scholarship reinstated. No conditions. New teacher, different classroom, different energy. One afternoon, I sat by the window as class ended. Sunlight cutting across the desk. Quiet. Normal. My phone buzzed. An email. Scholarship confirmed full approval. I stared at it for a second, then locked my phone, set it down, and for the first time since all of this started, everything felt still. Not perfect, not the same, but stable. I looked out the window. Students crossing the courtyard. Talking, laughing, moving on. And I realized something. They thought they were ending my story. But all they really did was expose theirs. I picked up my bag, stood up, and walked out of the classroom. No whispers this time. No stairs, just space. And as I stepped into the hallway, one thought stayed with me. Clear, simple, final. I thought it was over. That was my first mistake. It had been 3 weeks. 3 weeks since Mr. Callahan was removed. 3 weeks since the investigation started. 3 weeks since everything went back to normal. At least, that's what everyone else thought. But normal doesn't feel the same once you've seen how easily things can be manipulated. Once you realize how close you were to losing everything, not because you did something wrong, but because someone decided you did. I was sitting in the new classroom. Different teacher, different tone, no tension, just quiet. Predictable. Safe. Or at least, it should have been. My phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. Almost unknown number. Again, my chest tightened slightly as I opened the message. No greeting, no explanation. Just one line. You only uncovered part of it. I stared at the screen. That same feeling from before creeping back in. Slow, cold, familiar. Part of it? No, that didn't make sense. Mr. Callahan was gone. Maya confessed. The logs matched. Everything lined up. Clean. Finished. Right? I typed back this time. Who is this? Sent. Waited. Nothing. I locked my phone. Tried to focus. Tried to push it away. Because, logically, this could be anything. A prank. Someone trying to mess with me after what happened. But logic didn't sit right. Because there was one detail I couldn't ignore. The first messages, they knew things. Specific things. Timing. Systems. Access. That's not random. That's someone inside. The bell rang. Class ended. Students shuffled out. Normal noise. Normal movement. But I stayed in my seat for a second longer. Thinking. Replaying. Because something didn't add up. Not fully. Not cleanly. Mr. Callahan printed the tests. Yes. Maya accessed my account. Yes. But the message, the first one, came at 7:12 a.m. Before school. Before any of this unfolded publicly. Which means whoever sent it knew the plan before it happened. I stood up slowly. Heart steady but sharper now. Because that changes everything. That means this wasn't just a teacher acting alone. This wasn't just a bad decision or a small system. This was something else. Something organized enough that someone on the inside felt the need to warn me. My phone buzzed again. I stopped walking. Didn't even need to check. But I did. Another message. Same number. Check who approved the after-hours access logs. I froze. Right there in the hallway. Because that wasn't just a hint. That was direction. And if that information was real, then Mr. Callahan didn't just walk into the school at night and do whatever he wanted. Someone had to approve it. Which means someone higher up was involved. I slowly lifted my head, eyes drifting toward the administrative wing. Same place. Same door. Same system. But this time, the problem wasn't inside a classroom. It was above it. And suddenly, this wasn't over anymore. Not even close. That wasn't just a clue. That was a crack in the story I thought was already finished. I didn't go to my next class. Didn't even pretend to. Because if this was real, if someone approved Mr. Callahan being in the building that night, then this wasn't just about cheating anymore. This was authorization. Permission. Someone signing off on it. And there are only a few people who can do that. I walked straight back to the computer lab. Faster this time. Less hesitation. Because now I knew where to look. The lab was empty again. Lucky. Or maybe not. Maybe whoever was helping me was making sure of that. I logged in. Pulled up the system again. This time digging deeper. Not just login history. Not just printer logs. Access control. Staff movement. Security entries. Most students don't even know this exists. But it's there. hidden under layers most people never think to check. I filtered by date. Last night, 11 p.m., 12 a.m., and there it was. One entry. Clean. Simple. Authorized access room 214 Callahan. Approved by admin level 2. I stared at it. Admin level 2. Not a name. Just a clearance level. Which means whoever approved it didn't want to be directly visible. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then moved. Fast. I cross-referenced the admin clearance levels. Pulled up staff permissions. Filtered again. And then the list appeared. Only 3 people in the entire school had admin level 2 access. Principal Harris, Vice Principal Donnelly, and my breath caught. No, that didn't make sense. I leaned closer to the screen, checked it again, carefully, because maybe I read it wrong. Maybe I missed something, but I didn't. The third name didn't belong. Not in this situation. Not in this story. Miss Alvarez, head of IT. I sat back slowly, processing, because this just shifted everything again. Principal Harris? Possible, but she was in the room, shocked, reacting in real time. Vice Principal Donnelly? Maybe, but I hadn't seen any signs pointing to him. But Miss Alvarez? She controlled the system. The logs, the access. She could see everything, change things, hide things. And more importantly, she would know exactly how to use someone else's account without getting caught. My phone buzzed again, almost like it knew the exact moment I figured it out. I looked down, opened the message. Now you're asking the right questions. A chill ran through me, because that wasn't confirmation. Not exactly. But it wasn't denial either, which means I was getting close. Too close. I stood up quickly, heart picking up now, not from fear, but from clarity. Because if Miss Alvarez was involved, then this wasn't just about cheating, not even about control. This was about something bigger, something hidden inside the system itself. And suddenly, every piece of help I'd been getting, every message, every perfectly timed clue started to feel different, because I'd been asking the wrong question this entire time. Not who's behind the setup, but who's been guiding me to it. I grabbed my bag, turned toward the door, because there was only one way to find out. And this time, I wasn't waiting to be called in. I was going straight to her. I didn't knock. I went straight in. The IT office sat at the far end of the administrative wing, quiet, tucked away, the kind of place students rarely had a reason to visit, which made it perfect. Out of sight. Out of question. Miss Alvarez looked up the moment I stepped inside. Mid-40s. Sharp eyes, calm posture, always composed. The kind of person who never seemed surprised. Until now. Aria, she said, brows knitting slightly. Shouldn't you be in class? Her tone was neutral. But her eyes? They were already analyzing. I closed the door behind me. Slow. Deliberate. Probably, I said, but I think this is more important. A pause. She leaned back slightly in her chair, studying me now. All right, she said. What's going on? I stepped closer to the desk, dropped my bag beside me, then pulled out my phone. You have admin level 2 access, I said. No build-up. No hesitation. Her expression didn't change. Not immediately. That's correct, she replied. It's part of my job. I nodded. Which means you can approve after-hours access. Another pause. Smaller this time. Yes, she said, with proper authorization. I held her gaze. Didn't look away. Then why did you approve Mr. Callahan's access the night he used my account? There it was. Out in the open. No way around it. Silence filled the room. But not the same kind as before. This wasn't uncertainty. This was calculation. Miss Alvarez folded her hands on the desk. Carefully. Measured. I think you're making a serious accusation, she said. Am I wrong? I asked. Another pause. Longer now. She looked at me. Really looked this time. Not as a student, not as a problem. As someone who had figured something out, then something unexpected happened. She smiled. Just slightly, not nervous, not defensive. Almost impressed. You're faster than I thought, she said. My chest tightened. Not in panic, but in confirmation. So it was you, I said. She tilted her head. Partially, she replied. That word hit harder than anything else. Partially. Which means there was still more. You approved his access, I said. You knew what he was doing. Yes, she said calmly. No denial, no hesitation. Why? I asked. She stood up slowly, walked around the desk. Not threatening, not aggressive, just controlled. Because systems like this don't expose themselves, she said. They have to be revealed. I frowned. That doesn't explain anything. It will, she said. You just haven't seen the full picture yet. My phone buzzed, loud in the silence. I didn't look at it. Didn't need to. Because I already knew. The messages, the warnings, the timing. I looked back at her, eyes narrowing slightly. That was you, I said. She didn't answer right away. Then, that depends, she said, on what you think I was warning you about. A chill ran through me, because suddenly, this wasn't about stopping Mr. Callahan. It was about something bigger, something deeper, something she wanted me to find. But here's the real question, Arya, she continued. Her voice dropped slightly, not louder, but sharper. Now that you know I'm involved, she held my gaze, unblinking. Are you going to stop here or keep digging? Silence. Heavy. Waiting. Because either answer would change everything. And deep down, I already knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. She didn't say it like a threat. She said it like a test. I didn't answer right away. Because the truth, I already knew what the safe answer was. Walk away. Let it end with Mr. Callahan. Let the system fix itself. Go back to normal. But normal wasn't real anymore. Not after everything I'd seen. So instead, I asked, start talking. Miss Alvarez studied me for a moment, then nodded, not surprised. Almost like she expected that exact response. Mr. Callahan wasn't the system, she said. He was a symptom. I stayed quiet. Let her continue. For years, she said, pacing slowly now, there have been irregularities in academic performance across multiple classes, patterns that didn't make sense, sudden grade spikes, identical answer structures across different students. That lined up too well. I started looking into it, she continued, quietly, because if something like that is happening, you don't confront it directly. Why not? I asked. She stopped walking, looked at me. Because if it's bigger than one person, she said, you don't scare it, you expose it. A pause. And Callahan? I asked. He was one of several, she said. That hit. Several. Not one teacher. Not one class. A network. He sold access, she continued. Tests, answer keys, grading adjustments, but he wasn't operating alone. There were others, different methods, same outcome. And you just let it happen? I asked. Her expression sharpened slightly. No, she said. I documented it. She walked back to her desk, opened a drawer, pulled out a thin folder, inside, printed logs. Names, dates, patterns, far more than what I had seen. This is what you uncovered, she said, tapping the top page. But this? She flipped deeper into the stack. Is what you didn't. My chest tightened, because now I understood. She didn't stop it. She built a case. And me? I asked. Why involve me? She met my eyes directly. Because you were the variable. That answer didn't make sense. At least not at first. You weren't part of it, she explained. Your scores were consistent, clean, predictable, which made you a problem for people manipulating outcomes. So I wasn't targeted randomly. I was inconvenient. And when Callahan moved to eliminate that problem, she said, I let it happen. That landed hard. You let him frame me? I said. I let him expose himself, she corrected. Silence. Because technically, she wasn't wrong. Without that setup, none of this would have surfaced. But that didn't make it feel better. You could have stopped it, I said. Yes, she replied. No hesitation, no denial. And then what? She continued. He disappears. The others adjust. The system survives. She stepped closer. This way, it breaks. I looked down at the folder again, then back at her. And the messages? I asked. A small pause. Then, that was me. Finally, confirmed. I needed you to notice, she said, to question, to push at the right moments. You used me, I said. I guided you, she replied. Not softer, not harsher, just precise. Another silence, because both things could be true at the same time. Everything lined up now. Every piece. Every moment. The email at 7:12 a.m. sent by her. The login? Approved intentionally. The printer logs? Left visible on purpose. The messages? Time to push me exactly where I needed to go. This wasn't chaos. It was controlled exposure. And I was the center of it. I exhaled slowly. Not angry. Not relieved. Just aware. You should have told me, I said. And you wouldn't have acted the same, she replied. That was true. I hated that it was true. Because if I knew, I might have hesitated, doubted, pulled back, and then none of this happens. Still, that didn't erase the feeling. Trust doesn't come easy after something like that, even when it works out. The fallout didn't stay quiet. Not this time. Miss Alvarez turned everything over. All of it. Multiple teachers investigated. 2 suspended. 1 resigned before it became public. Policies changed. Hard. Access logs monitored. Test security rebuilt. External audits brought in. The school didn't just recover. It transformed. And this time, it wasn't surface level. Students noticed. Teachers noticed. Because for once, the system didn't protect itself. It exposed itself. Maya stayed distant. We didn't fix things. Not really. Some things don't go back. But the rest shifted. People looked at me differently. Not just respect. Something else. Caution. Because now, I wasn't just the student who got accused. I was the one who uncovered it. Even if I didn't do it alone. A week later, I stood outside the IT office again. Didn't go in. Didn't need to. Because everything that needed to be said already was. My phone buzzed one last time. A message. No number this time. Just a system notification. Admin access updated monitoring active. I stared at it for a second, then locked my phone. And for the first time since all of this started, there were no more questions. No hidden pieces. No missing parts. Just clarity. I turned, walked down the hallway, past classrooms, past students, past everything that used to feel normal, and this time, it actually did. Not because nothing had changed, but because now I understood how it worked, and more importantly, how to see it coming. I pushed open the exit doors, stepped outside. Sunlight hit my face, bright, clear, unfiltered. And I didn't hesitate, didn't look back, because this story wasn't something happening to me anymore. It was something I walked through and came out of knowing exactly where I stood. No setup, no trap, no uncertainty, just truth.
If you notice the setup early, would you stay quiet or expose it immediately?